Now that we've discussed some of the powerful features of Postman, let's take a look at this demo. Okay, so I'm starting from a fresh workspace. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of set up my environment to allow some of the interaction that we just saw. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over here to environment, and I'm going to create a new environment for myself. So here I'm going to go to add, and this is the new environment. I'm going to call it my Okay, I'm going to call it my 2021 environment. And then I'm just going to be copying over some of the items that I'm going to be using here that we showed earlier. So I'm going to add a web server variable, and I'm going to add the endpoint for that. I'm going to add the MSTR auth token. Just going to put something here. And next I'm going to add the project at the time. So I just want to make sure that I have access to that at all times. I'm going to use my favorite project, MicroStrategy tutorial. Okay, so we're going to start there. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, so now that I have this, I'm going to go ahead and click on save. Now that it's saved, I'm just going to close this environment. And in order to select that environment, I'm going to hit this drop down here in the top right-hand corner and go ahead and choose my 2021 environment. Now, everything here is going to be pointing live to that environment. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create one request. This is going to be a post request. This is going to be my authentication. And I'm going to type in the start with the curly brackets, and notice that when I do that, it starts to filter down the list of dynamic variables here. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my web server, and you can always like hover over it and see what shows up here just to give you an idea of what that value was to make sure that you've selected the right one. So here is my endpoint, and this is just the basic path, and it's ending in /API. So the one I want to add here is the auth login right after. So I will be typing in auth login, or I can paste it from a different location. So I have my post, I have my auth login, and the other thing I want to do here is add the body. All right, so I have this here. All right, so here is where I would normally have typed in my user and password, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to reference the variables here. So I'm going to type and username, and notice that I have double quotes around that. So you need that because this is the JSON part, and if it's a string, it needs to have double quotes around that. If I had a value that was a number that didn't have double quotes, I wouldn't have to add, and I had a dynamic variable, I wouldn't have to add the double quotes. So I'm going to go do the same thing for password. Okay, so I have my username, password, and the other information I'm just going to keep by default. My application type is here. And the other thing I'm going to do here is get some tests here. So as we saw in the discussion, there is a script here that what it does is that it will dynamically grab the session that's created here and store that as part of my environment over here. I'll hover over it right here. So what we're going to see is that when I create my token, it's going to automatically replace it up here. So this way I don't have to copy and paste it among the different requests. So I will go ahead and do that now. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about what this is doing. So this is waiting for a successful request. This is just showing that it's 200, or it could be a 204, which is what this one is right here. So I'm checking to see if the response is 204. And if it is, I'm going to use the JSON, or I should say the Postman JavaScript, to access the token, the header off of the request. And I'm going to take this value, which is now stored as the authorization token, and I'm outputting it to the console so I can see what it is. And then I'm using a Postman special JavaScript to set the environment variable to match this variable. Now, this environment is dynamic, so it's whatever current environment that you have set. So if I had a different environment, then this would automatically update that variable there. So now that I have this here, I have my body information here, and I have that it's a post, and I have this here and that. I'm going to go ahead and trigger send. First, I'm going to save. I'm going to save. I'm going to create a new collection. and go ahead and save it in that collection. Okay, so now I'm going to trigger it. All right, so I have a successful 204. And if I go to my header here, I see that the value was sent. So it here says 6D9V7. And if you remember when I added the token to the environment, nothing was set there. But if I hover over it now, you're going to see the same value. Now here you're going to see the initial value and then the current value. So this is the one that the Postman session is going to be actively using. So next thing I can do is I can actually create a new session. This time I'm going to get some server nodes because I'm interested in learning about the monitoring APIs and I want to implement that in my custom application. So the get server nodes parameter looks like this. This is a get request and I'm adding it here. So here I have my web server again. I have the monitors and there's iServer and nodes, which I've learned from using the Live Explorer page. The other information that I'm going to need now here under the header section, I'm going to need that token to make this request. So in order to get that, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a special collection of presets over here. And this is now what this is going to do is allow me to quickly add my comment headers to every request that I create so I don't have to keep typing it in manually every time. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to, and here, yep, I'm going to put our value that's coming in from the, so here is the first the XMSTR token, and the next one I'm going to put in here is going to be the project. I believe I called it that. Let's see. Yep, that's it. So if you're not sure, just hover over it and you'll see those values pop up. So this is telling me that I have the right one. So I'm going to click on, I'm going to give this a name, call it my headers, and I'm going to choose add. Okay, so here I'm on the headers tab, and I'm just going to go over here to presets, and I'm going to say my headers, and then bam, it pops it in there. Don't have to keep typing. After that first type in, I don't have to type it in again. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do here, now this is all the information I need to run the server node. So I'm going to go ahead and save my request, and I'm going to choose that same collection and go ahead and choose save. Now I'm going to go ahead and trigger that request. And right away, I get my nodes back. Now, if I wanted to, I could continue that and create another script that would access this server node and dynamically set the server node up here. But you also have the option, like, for example, if the variables are going to be really dynamic or you'll be choosing multiple nodes, multiple values from the nodes or multiple server nodes, you can always do it manually also. So I'm going to show how I'm going to do that now. I'm going to edit my collection and I'm going to add a new one. I'm going to call it server node. And I'm going to set the value to my actual server node that was returned from that endpoint. I'm going to hit save. And then I have that to use for later. So the next call I'm going to make is getting the cube cache usage monitor. So I'm going to copy this one here. This is going to be a get. And I've typed in the item. So right here, it shows the server node is hard coded. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get rid of that value. And I'm just going to create like a little space to give it some room to do the auto show. So I'm going to start typing the curly braces and start typing in server node, which is what I named it. And then voila, it's popped up. And I'm just going to make sure I get rid of that extra little space. Okay, so my server node is here. I have my header, which is not here. So I'm just going to quickly add in my headers here. And I believe I'm ready to go. I'm just going to hit save. Save it to my collection. And here I'm going to hit save and run. So immediately I got back my 200 and I have the value here and I get my data back. So this is just an example how I can quickly set up the environment. And the other cool thing here too is that if I had multiple environments, you can easily go in and create another environment. And when you do that, you can switch back and forth between environments. So just imagine being able to test quickly between two different versions, or two different environments. You can just quickly switch this back and forth and be immediately logged in and accessing the data with the REST API. Okay, hopefully this demo was helpful, and I'll see you soon.